By Flamingo Paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We are live from Anu Sabata Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, removed Chief Justice's attempt to withdraw the suit against Shining Stars of Ghana blocked as court orders her lawyers to follow proper procedure. Now, we've got the latest on this and what happened in court earlier today. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. Also, tonight in our package for you, murky details emerge about the National Scholarship Secretariat's operations under the former administration. Now, we'll take a closer look at the issues unfolding right now. The new boss of the National Scholarship Secretariat has been talking. Stay with us. We have a conversation tonight. Also, utility service providers are advocating for significant tariff increases, justifying why Ghanaians should pay over 200% more for electricity tariffs. We'll tell you about it. ECG is asking for 225% increase in electricity tariffs. Ghana Water Company Limited is asking for 280% increase in tariffs. We'll start off with the electricity conversation tonight, so stay with us. We have more, including some, there was a shooting incident in Patuam in the Ashanti region, and a fire outbreak at Latabia Koshi here in Accra. But unfortunate developments. We'll tell you about the latest on that. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, is proposing a 224% increment in its distribution service charge over the 2025-2030 tariff period. Should the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission PURC approve this, the sales projection of the power provider is expected to increase from over 18 billion cedis to 22 billion cedis, with average annual growth of 8% through 2029. Executive Secretary of the Commission, Dr. Shafiq Suleiman, explains these are only proposals and will be subjected to public scrutiny and analysis before final decisions are announced.
In the coming weeks, the Commission will roll out regional public hearings to provide consumers with the opportunity to engage directly with utility companies. These hearings will allow utilities to explain and justify their tariff proposals in simple yet relatable terms. It will achieve the intended impact if the narratives are effectively carried and amplified by recognized communication officials and the media at large.
The Ghana National Association of Teachers, NATS, is calling on government and security agencies to restore calm in Benyiri in the Savannah region, where ongoing conflict has forced teachers to flee their classrooms. According to NATS, if government fails to restore calm, it will not advise its members to return until safety is fully guaranteed. General Secretary of NATS, Thomas Tanko Musa, spoke with the correspondent Daniel Opoku in Accra.
Escape, run as fast as your legs can carry you. If you have a motorbike, please escape. Allow the security people also to go and do their work. At any point in time where calm returns, we all go. In times like this, it is not about the Ghana Education Service. First and foremost, education thrives where there is peace. The education doesn't like noise.
The Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment, George Opariado, says despite the delays and challenges, this year's national service will go ahead as planned and no student will be left behind. He says they are working around the clock to resolve the current challenges and urged prospective service personnel to remain calm.
We've not done much in respect to postings for this year because just when the app was opened, His Excellency instructed that we suspend it and do some further investigations into the app. As I speak to you, the app is still closed. We've not opened it because we are in the processes of procuring a new platform for postings to be done on. And so only about a small fraction of people got the opportunity of initially registering on the app.
The Minister for Food and Agriculture, Eric Opoku, has reaffirmed government's commitment to roll out the much-anticipated Nkukwo Nkitin program by the first week of October. Speaking to journalists on the sidelines of the ECOWAS Regional Trade in Livestock, the minister disclosed that procurement processes are underway to engage contractors for the distribution of day-old chicks to beneficiary households.
Plans are far advanced. And it's likely that at the end of the month or the first week of October, His Excellency the President will launch the program. And all of you will be invited. And then we'll start the distribution to the various constituencies for distribution to the beneficiary farmers. We are now putting the list together. And we are now going through the procurement processes to engage the contractors to supply us with the best. So very soon, it will be launched.
Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Gold Board, Sami Jimfi, has called on local pension fund managers to channel investments into the mining sector, mirroring the approach taken by international institutions. Speaking at the 2025 Mining and Minerals Convention, Jimfi emphasized the need for a comprehensive review of Ghana's pension fund management framework, arguing that strategic investment in mining could serve as a hedge against inflation and enhance long-term returns.
As you may be aware, Ghana's primary pension fund yields almost negative real returns due to investments in unproductive ventures. Foreign pension funds, however, invest profitably in mining. Why not reorient our pension strategy as a country toward gold, a time-tested asset and a better hedge against inflation?
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7. We're also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on YouTube as well. Across the world on 3news.com and also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Connect with us on all these platforms. And as always, we're probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso Insecticide Spray, and Qualcomm Tum Precom. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, it's a development regarding the former Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Tukono because the court blocked the former Chief Justice's bid to withdraw the suit against Shining Stars of Ghana. Shining Stars of Ghana is one of three petitions that were submitted against her. You do know that an Ofori's petition is what was the basis for her removal, that the stated misbehavior was established. Well, there are a number of cases that are still running in the court of law. They are active and alive regarding the former Chief Justice. Some running in the courts in this country and others in the ECOWAS court, as we have seen. But earlier today, an Accra High Court ordered lawyers of the former Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Tukono to follow the appropriate procedure in withdrawing the case challenging her removal process. Now, presiding Judge Justice Eugene Nyadu Nyateng blocked the efforts by the lawyer for the former Chief Justice to withdraw the suit filed on June 23 orally. Now, you recall the former Chief Justice Gertrude Tukono on June 23, filed a judicial review application asking the High Court to strike out a petition by a group known as Shining Stars of Ghana. Today's business in court is in respect of this particular matter. Dennis Paberiwadam Esquire is going to join me in the studio right now. You know what, we want to get into it. Recall exactly what the matters are at play right now and what the original suit really is and why what happened today is a very interesting development, and it's good to have you.
Always a pleasure being here, Alfred.
Thank you so much. Now, let's recall, just for the benefits of the uninitiated, exactly what the former Chief Justice sought to do regarding Shining Stars.
Yes.
And why this morning's development is instructive.
So this was one of two suits that the former Chief Justice had before the High Court. Recall all the cases that she had were before the Supreme Court, or cases that were in connection with her removal were at the Supreme Court. But this one is one of two that were before the High Court. The first one has been dismissed. That was in relation to her allegations of violation of her rights, basically challenging the procedure that was adopted by the committee in hearing the petitions. The second one had to do with one that related to one of the petitioners, Shining Stars of Ghana, in which she contended that the entity Shining Stars of Ghana does not exist in fact or in law. And those were the reliefs that she was seeking from the High Court, that the High Court should make orders in that regard, to the effect that one, that the Shining Stars of Ghana, which is a petitioner seeking her removal, does not exist in law or in fact, and that the High Court should make a declaration that the petition to the President allegedly uttered by Shining Stars of Ghana is void on account of the fact that the Shining Stars of Ghana does not exist in law or in fact. Yes, so that naturally flows from the first relief that she was seeking, that to the extent that this entity does not exist, neither in fact or in law, the petition that it purportedly presented to the President, for which the committee was hearing or established to hear a matter alleging some wrongdoing on her part, should also be disregarded because the entity in itself does not even exist in the first place. She goes on to seek a relief to the effect that she wanted the High Court to make a declaration that the purported prima facie determination in respect of petition by Shining Stars of Ghana is now void and of no legal effect. She also wanted another order to bring up to the courts for the purposes of caution and accordingly caution the purported prima facie determination finding made by the President in consultation with the Council of State, and that has to do in respect of the petition that was presented to the President by the Shining Stars of Ghana. So these basically were the reliefs that were being sought by the former Chief Justice, then Chief Justice, when this suit was filed. Will you recall that when this was filed, the Attorney General also filed another process seeking to set aside this particular application? Remember, the first one, which I said was a challenge, was basically on allegations of violation of her human rights. That was dismissed on the account of the Attorney General coming with another motion to set it aside. That was successful. That's to say that the Attorney General successfully set aside or got the court to set aside that particular application. The Attorney General adopted the same strategy in this, filing an application to set aside this particular judicial review application.
I see.
Now, today was for the hearing of that motion by the Attorney General.
All right.
To set aside this particular suit, if you like. Now, knowing what has happened between the last time they were in court and today, it was the expectation of many that a lot of things, including what lawyers for the former Chief Justice attempted to do today, would have been the right route. Because they were challenging the existence of this entity, because this entity had a petition before a committee which was seeking her removal. So now we've got to a point where she has now been removed. So the question now becomes, is it still relevant to still pursue this course of action?
Right.
So many had already predicted that in today's hearing, we would have seen what was going to happen. However, procedurally, there were some challenges. So like I said, for today's hearing, it was for the Attorney General to move his motion to set aside this suit altogether.
That's true. And you recall that the likes of Martin Bebo had indicated that to the extent that the Chief Justice had been removed, the other two petitions, that's the Shining Stars and then the Commissioner of Police,
yes,
those ones should just be discontinued. The 5-member committee should not waste their time on it. And this was on one of the pending two.
Yes.
That's the Shining Stars.
Stars, yes.
Okay.
So just when the Attorney General was about moving his motion to set aside this, then counsel for the former Chief Justice was on his feet. And his prayer was simply that he has the instructions of his client, which is the former Chief Justice, to withdraw this particular suit.
And he did that orally?
Yes, he made an attempt. So when I say he was on his feet too, he actually orally made a presentation to the court to withdraw that particular suit. However, that was opposed by the Attorney General, who was represented by the Deputy Attorney General, to the effect that procedurally it is defective for one to want to withdraw a suit, a substantive suit in that matter, an originating process in the manner which the learned counsel on the other side wanted to do.
Orally?
Yes, orally.
Procedurally?
He explained that yes, the procedure for withdrawing an originating motion or application is different from that which when you are withdrawing an interlocutory application. So that the proper process is for the process to be filed. So you file a motion of discontinuance.
Right.
So, I mean, there was no debate about it. So counsel on the other side simply sought an adjournment so that they could file the necessary processes to have the case withdrawn. So, in essence, yes, they are on the path to withdrawing it, but for this hurdle, legal hurdle, procedurally, that there was a challenge, they would have withdrawn the case today.
I see. But then what happens and what's going to happen in the coming days? Because now what that means is that the motion of discontinuance would have to be filed.
Yes.
By the former Chief Justice's lawyers.
Yes.
That they are not interested in pursuing the case anymore.
They want to withdraw their case. Ordinarily, withdrawing a case should not be a big deal. That's because the courts do not compel parties to litigate. So if a party wants to withdraw at any point in time, they are allowed to do so, except that depending on the stage of the case, certain processes would have to be followed. I mean, if it were in the initial stages, it wouldn't have been a big deal. And like the Deputy Attorney General rightly argued, that when it comes to interlocutory matters, it would have just been as easy as telling the court that they want to withdraw orally. But to the effect that this was a substantive matter, that's to say, they are withdrawing the suit itself, not an application that was made on the suit. So in that case, they needed to follow the right process. But like I said, generally, it should not be a big deal if a party wants to withdraw its suit or an application, except that in some instances, you will do so subject to cost, because you have brought a party to court and you are now taking the case away. You've caused that party to come to court to meet you in court. So that party would have incurred cost. So in that case, cost applies. But yes, that's in the general sense of it. But for this, what we are dealing with now is just for that party, the Chief Justice's lawyers, to file the appropriate processes, and then that will be done with. The case will be struck out as withdrawn.
Okay, so it was a matter of procedure.
Precisely.
Essentially so. But let's see how the coming days will look like on this, because I know you're monitoring the ECOWAS court matter as well.
Yes, yes, we are keeping our eyes on that, because they still have a ruling to deliver, and then also there are also other matters that will determine whether they even have jurisdiction to hear that particular case or not.
Thank you, Dennis Baberi. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And as we keep tabs on the matters of law, you can trust that Dennis would definitely get into it to consistently update you every step of the way. This is Ghana Tonight. Now, coming up next, revelations have surfaced about questionable dealings at the Scholarship Secretariat under the former administration. Here's what the now National Scholarship Secretariat boss has been saying regarding this latest revelation. And in fact, many of you who say you're not surprised, especially because of what's happened regarding this particular Scholarship Secretariat over the years, and why really this should be of grave concern to anybody who has been watching this particular space and how things have been playing out in the scholarship secretariat and matters arising. And that's what we're going to keep our eyes on, because it gets worrying to say the least. And this is it. This was a conversation or an interview that Alex Kweku Asafoje, who is a registrar at the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat, had on a radio station in Kumasi, specifically, giving details of what is going to be done going forward and what he inherited. That's on Inshira FM. Well, we've transcribed it. This is it. Now, over time, there's been a number of investigations, stories. The Fourth Estate have done some expose on the Scholarship Secretariat and how some persons who can afford are actually giving scholarships. And one person who's a lead investigator with the Fourth Estate is going to be joining us in a bit. They did this previously. Why did this continue even that after that expose that got all of us talking? Well, this is it. This is the man, the registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat, who is saying that what has happened, quote, at the Secretariat is that when someone is awarded a scholarship, their wife and children are also added as dependents. And that's not even the sad part. Now, if you're reacting and is upset about this one, he said that's not even the sad part, that their wives and their children are also added as dependents. And what this means is, they're added as dependent. The Secretariat pays for all their visa processes. And if they say the Secretariat pays, what this means is that the state, you and I, we are paying for their visa processes and other related expenses. So, just for the benefit of analysis, Dennis Paberi-Wadam, producer, gets a scholarship. Now, his wife and children are also added as dependents, and their visa processes and other related expenses are all taken care of by the state. In fact, it becomes the state's burden to do that. Their air tickets are also covered by the Secretariat. Then their allocated stipends as well, all borne by you and I. And that's not even enough. Says it gives an example. There are memos showing official approval for these payments. Their tickets were fully paid for by the Secretariat. And he says they confirm that Peter Mensah has been awarded a financial scholarship by the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat to study LLM law at Brunel University, London, UK, which commences January 2022. Now, guess what? The scholarship covers Peter Mensah and his dependents listed above, and covers the students' tuition fees of £17,875 and the living expenses of £16,008 per annum. Now, it also covers his dependent, and look at the name there. That rings a bell. Gifty Efia Owari Mensah. Spouse living expenses of £8,160. Now, we're talking about Gifty Owari Mensah, who was the former deputy director at the National Service Authority, who is standing trial as well. You'll recall that the Attorney General has been giving updates on this entire national service scheme and what has been happening. Now, as a suspect, as was named by the Attorney General in that national service scandal that he addressed the press on a few months ago. So she's a suspect in this ongoing investigation by the Attorney General, but then again, she's mentioned here by the registrar of the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat as one person who also benefited as a spouse of her husband, who was a beneficiary of this scholarship scheme, because there was an allocation of £8,160 to living expenses for her. Now, this is just a highlight of what Mr. Alex Safo J has been talking about and why there should be matter of concern for us looking at the review of this entire scholarship scheme and what should be done going forward. And that's a conversation we're going to be having shortly here on Ghana Tonight. And thankfully, I've been joined on Zoom by one person who has done quite some work in this particular area and really needs no introduction if you've been following his work for quite some time now with the Fourth Estate. We've been joined by Seth Kekeli Bokwe, the lead investigative journalist with the Fourth Estate. They did the recent expose in this scholarship, the awarding of scholarship by the Scholarship Secretariat a couple of years ago. We also have Dr. Peter Patianti, he's the executive director of the Institute for Energy, that's the Education, Studies, IFES. He's also joining us right now. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'll start off with you. Seth, you've done some work already in this scholarship awarding scheme at the Scholarship Secretariat. And if you could put your video on for us, that'd be good. Now, with that first expose that you did, what did you find? Reason why this latest development, being the updates from the current registrar, is of no surprise to you?
Fred?
Yes, I can hear you.
We, prior to our investigations, we had a couple of, complaints from the public that the Scholarship Secretariat was actually fleecing the public and taking money to sell scholarship meant for, needy people. So we decided to look into it and see who exactly was benefiting from the scholarship. Then it turned out that our elites, in fact, those who are the highly paid amongst us, are actually those who were receiving the scholarship. So, for instance, we found that the same giftee, Owari Abuaji, who today we are told is actually got spousal allowance, actually benefited from the scholarship. She was at University of Birmingham in the UK, got about £18,450.
I see.
We found.
Which year was this exactly?
This was in 2020.
2020. So she got the scholarship in 2020. Her husband, according to the current registrar, got his in 2022, and she was a spousal beneficiary.
Exactly. Then we had Dr. Dennis Addo, who owns a hospital at the airport residential area, Clarion Hospital. He got about $50,000 to study public health in Harvard. We had Fauzi Ramadan. The interesting part about Fauzi Ramadan's case is that he's actually the personal assistant to Semira Baumia, the former First Lady, and a brother to the Adenta MP, Abu Ramadan. He had £17,355 paid to Brunel University in the UK to do supply chain management. He didn't turn up at the university because he claimed there was COVID. So we actually threw away that amount of money.
Wow.
We have Michael Oforiata, who we spent $16,700. He's a relative of the former finance minister, Ken Oforiata. We spent about £16,740 for him to enroll on a pathway program that could lead to a university course. Yes, that's how much we spent. Not that he was actually enrolled for his first degree program, but we were paid for a pathway program.
I see.
We had personal assistant to an MP, the former Impoho MP, Alex Kofi. We also had somebody who was an MPP executive in the UK, Charles Asma, who received about £28,380 for a law program. Freddie Blaze's daughter had about £5,000 to do course that will allow him to head to practice in England and Wales. And funny enough, she returned to defend Aisha. And we have the former IGP, Asante Apitu's daughter, who was actually schooling in Ashesi University, and then she got a scholarship and left for the UK, University of Aberdeen. He spent about 27,000. The list is very long.
Clearly,
27,000.
The names you're mentioning just defies that requirement of being needy or not being able to pay for it. But Dr. Peter Patanti,
and another interesting thing we found was how people receive multiple scholarships. So somebody receives a scholarship in this year, completes it, and then gets another one.
Oh, I see.
The idea of a scholarship is that these people will return to come and serve the country. But we found that a lot of them, at least 104, for those we could track, 104 of them didn't turn up. Didn't return to the country to serve the nation. We interviewed one person who told us that they, for instance, find a way of paying their way out of the bond. So there were people at the scholarship secretariat who are able to, when you're able to pay the fee, pay about £10,000, they can, give you clearance not to return to the country to serve your nation. This is how it works.
Dr. Antti, you say that this is not surprising. I mean, with what you're hearing, you have some persons who are alarmed by this detail that Kekeli is just giving to us. But this doesn't surprise you in any way. Why is that? If you can unmute for me, yes.
Good evening to your viewers and good evening to the gentleman on the other line. Please, I'm a little bit taken aback, although I'm not surprised about what the report is bringing out. I'm a little bit taken aback looking at the amount of money involved and the personalities. Normally when even Get Fund and the other scholarship secretariats come out with their reports, we normally see some of these names and then the amounts involved. But it seems that over the past 4 to 8 years, it was really overboard, and that it's intriguing to note the names that are in there, the programs that they claim to have gone to undertake, and more interestingly, people taking spousal support and other things. We are just not doing the right things. Yeah.
I see, but you see, Seth, you mentioned something that this scholarship scheme was supposed to be just for, if you're going to do your first degree, you get it and go and do it. But then your investigation showed that an individual could get a scholarship from the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat to go do their first degree and get another scholarship to go and do their masters, all at the expense of the state.
Some were even double masters programs.
Double masters?
One person got, double masters.
Wow. And
somebody even got about 40,000 Canadian dollars to do project management, diploma in project management in Canada.
Diploma in project management, 40,000 Canadian dollars.
40,000. When we did a comparative analysis of how much that amount of money could sponsor somebody who is doing a master's program in project management in UPSA, we had over 50 people. We could actually pick over 50 people in UPSA. That is how much we actually threw away on one single person to do diploma in project management.
I see. How come that after this expose that got the whole nation talking, this continued, and we're hearing the current registrar of this scholarship secretariat also crying about the same things that you did your hard work to expose?
I think it's basically because those who were in charge at the time didn't take our work serious. Nobody got queried, nobody got questioned about it. So it's basically meant that you could get away with it. So they continued. And I think another problem was also the fact that the scholarship secretariat at the time, I don't know what has changed now, at the time was actually under the office of the president. So they had a huge power that they could do anything and could not be questioned.
I see. And Dr. Anti, so this is the same concern about the fact that,
Alfred,
yes...
If I may add a little more.
Yes, quick.
I think the scholarship secretariat needs to be a little more transparent, because the scholarship administration under the previous government was not transparent at all. They claimed that they had decentralized the system to the extent that if you are in your districts, you are able to get interviewed and then get your scholarship. But we spoke to multiple people who went through the system and didn't get a scholarship. They did not.
Dr. Anti, you have been monitoring the work to review the scholarship, the law on that actually governs the scholarship secretariat's work. Will this new bill address the weaknesses that this expose, for instance, by the Fourth Estate has put out?
Yes, I think that the bill, as was sent to Parliament and withdrawn under the direction of the Minister of Education for further consultation to be undertaken, is being put in a shape that would at least prevent some of these things from happening. First and foremost, you cannot, take out the influence of the political class when it comes to scholarship administration. But what you can do is to minimize their influence so that those who genuinely need their assistance would be given that particular assistance. So you see that one of the things in the bill is that courses that can be run, programs that can be run or that are being run in Ghana would not be giving, people will not be giving scholarship to go and do it outside the country, which is a very, very important thing. We talk about transparency. There are aspects of the bill that seeks to promote transparency in terms of people close to political, those who are, they call politically exposed people will not be able to access these scholarship schemes. So, for example, if we had this law, the person that the investigation brought up, that the husband and the wife and all those things would not have been, I would not have had the opportunity to assess the scholarship as it is. One of the things that we are also pushing more is to ensure that the scholarship administration, maximum of them is done by the awarding institutions, that is for the universities to award the scholarship, so that at the end of the day, that kind of external influence and fairness would be brought to bear. We also hoping that the bill, as is undergoing consultation and review, would ensure that there is adequate room for appeal, so that when you apply and you are not given the scholarship, you can apply. You can appeal your rejection, and the reasons why you were not given the scholarship would be given to made clear to you, there's also an attempt to ensure that programs, the specific direction of human needs that the country is going to, or that the country is looking for, is where the scholarships will be awarded. So there are certain programs that need special techniques that are not offered in the country. And these people, when they are given that opportunity, as the gentleman said, after the program, you're supposed to come back to the country. So there are modalities that the individual would have to go through so that after he's trained for a particular program, that individual would still come back, and then his expertise or her expertise would be useful to the country. So there are changes in it. The scholarship secretariat is now being molded into an authority. It will be moved from where it is. I'm thinking that it's coming under the Ministry of Education. It's not going to be under the presidency as it used to be. And if all these things are done, and the other suggestions that have come up, I think that we would, to a large extent, reduce the experiences that we had in the previous years.
No, Dr. Anti, appreciate you for this. Thank you so much for joining us. And Seth, in a minute on this, because of the work that you have done and what the rot you have seen in the Scholarship Secretariat, what should be the way forward in addressing this corruption, essentially?
I think going forward, as I mentioned earlier, the system needs to be more transparent. If we are going to be spending the taxpayers' money on funding people to travel abroad, we need to publish the list every single year. It should not be a secret. If you are getting public funds to go and educate yourself outside the country, it should be possible for us to scrutinize the list to find out who and who is benefiting. It should not be rocket science. The public should not beg for something like that. It should be published every year, just as we publish we do the announcements in the newspapers. We should also publish a list of beneficiaries. It makes it more transparent. People could trust the system. Otherwise, it's just going to be a charade as we see it now.
All right. And I thank you very much for this. And as we see the coming days unfold with this matter of the Scholarship Secretariat and the reforms in there, you propose that the list of beneficiaries should be published in the National Daily, so we all see. We'll see how the Secretariat would also, the Ministry of Education now, would take up that proposal that you have made. Seth, appreciate you for this. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. That's Seth Kekeli Bokwe. He's a lead investigator the investigative journalist with the Fourth Estate. They did quite some work. And regarding the Scholarship Secretariat and the rot in there a couple of years ago. And then also Dr. Peter Anti joining us as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, utility providers pushing for over 200% hike in electricity tariffs. And we will be giving you a bit more detail on this because ECG has been giving us reasons why they want this tariff hike of 225%. As to why we should be paying this, it's another question that we would be finding some answers to this evening here on Ghana Tonight. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. We'll have a conversation on this on Ghana Tonight. PLC's engagement with the various utility providers on the proposals that they are making, because bear in mind, they're not the only ones asking for an increase, but this is what ECG is saying. Take a look.
Take our books of accounts, you will realize that the generation cost alone and the sales, ECG is into loss. In other words, the generation cost of ECG is even higher than the sales that we make. All we are requesting the regulator to do is to ensure that the generation cost is a pass-through cost in.
Well, so they said the generation cost and all the others in that pass through into the distribution is what they have to look at. In fact, when we put up this on social media, so why this is what we're going to discuss, a number of you were asking, then why are we paying for this 1 cedi energy recovery levy on the fuel that we buy, right? Because the intent of that levy was to deal with the over 3.1 billion cedis debt in the energy sector, of which ECG is carrying a chunk of it. So why are they asking us to pay more? So this is the period that the tariff increase is going to cover. They say that the impact in terms of the distribution service charge, DCSC one, would lead to an increase of 19 pesos per kilowatt hour to 62 pesos per kilowatt hour. That's going to be the impact of the increase if it is granted, the 224% they're asking for. And here are the reasons why. They say there's been this increase is needed because it is critical to avert the financial collapse of ECG. They say the increase is also needed to strengthen infrastructure and improve the reliability of electricity supply. They say the sharp 74% depreciation of the cedi between 2022 and 2024 has eroded ECG's revenue gains by 45%. Well, Alfred Ocansey is a data scientist. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Alfred, thank you for connecting with us. Now, this demand by ECG, is it one that is justifiable based on the numbers you've been crunching and how things are looking like right now?
Hello, Alfred. Hope you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly.
Awesome. So I think in order for us to answer that question, maybe we take a quick step back to understand the tariff structure, right, and the component of the tariffs, so that we can be able to put it into perspective. So when you look at the tariffs, there is the composite, the generation charge, right? That is the one that the VRA and the IPPs, as of Q3, that's about 62% of the tariff. There's also the transmission service charge. That's what goes to Gridco. So for Gridco's direct operations, that's about 6%. We also know that it's not all power that is generated that can actually make it into the transmission system and also into the distribution system. So there's an allocation, or there's an allocation for losses, and so that is also about 3%. That's a transmission service charge too. Then we have the distribution service charge, which is what we are talking about. So this is for the direct operations of ECG, right? That's about 11%. And then there's also, because again, ECG is not able to, it's not all the power that it buys that it's able to sell. PRC also makes an allocation for the power that is lost as part of distribution. That's what is called the distribution service charge too. So just wanted to lay the ground. So, in terms of the ECG specifically, we are talking about, they are looking at that 11% component of the tariff, right? That's where they are looking for that increase on. And then also, just so we understand, usually in terms of tariff adjustment, there are two main types. There is the major tariff review, and the last one was in 2022. And then we also have these quarterly adjustments that are made to account for inflation, exchange rate movement, and the cost of fuel. So that one is done quarterly, and we hear about. Now, when PRC has to make all these analysis, right, or make these adjustments, it has to consider so many things, right? So it has to look at consumers, the interest of consumers. It has to look at the utilities, the investors and the utilities, their interest, and then the financial viability of the whole energy sector. So there are so many factors that we have to look at. I also just wanted to remind people that in 2022, ECG again had asked for 148% increase in this DSC one that we are talking about. But of course, PRC only approved 5.8% of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the question about whether this is justified, we'll have to look at ECG's operations, right? Because this DSC1 is supposed to be for ECG's operations. So is ECG itself efficient? Is ECG itself generating the efficiencies that to justify the need for additional significant increases? Now, they've made mention of some certain factors like inflation, foreign exchange, they've talked about interest rates and all of that. But mind you, those factors also impact households, right? So it's not just the utilities that suffer when the exchange rate is not going in the right direction, or when the interest rates are high. Households and businesses also suffer all of that. So the utilities regulator has to balance all these things, right? So just because ECB is asking for 224% increase doesn't mean that it's going to be granted, because we have to make sure that we're not burdening people and businesses. So I think I mentioned these. So these are the main factors that they say is driving the thing. But maybe let's take a look at some of the data on ECG's performance. So when you do look at distribution losses, which is basically, there are two components of distribution losses, but not to overcomplicate. It's basically the power that ECG is not able to sell, right? So it buys 100 cedis worth of power. It's not able to sell 27 cedis of that. So that's already lost, right? So some part of that efficiency that ECG needs is how do we cut down on that 27% distribution losses? The regulator gives them a benchmark. I think currently the benchmark is about 21%. So you see that this 27% obviously is above that. And when you want to translate ECG's operations into the losses into monetary terms, you see that as of 2023, the total losses that they made was 10.2 billion cedis. 2024 data just came out from SIGA, and it's saying that they made 8.3 billion cedis in losses. So to me, ECG itself has to also look at its own processes, because you can list all these macroeconomic factors that are driving your tariffs, but if you are inefficient. Now, just recently, we heard about ECG over procuring, right? And all of that is feeding into its cost of operations, because the DSC1 is supposed to be for its operations, right? So to me, ECD has to look internally as well and assure us, like, what is it doing? Because we know about this issue of over procurement.
Yes.
It doesn't.
The corruption that the procurement is riddled with, and all the losses as well that we have to bear.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that, the consumer, there doesn't have to be a full pass through of all these things, all these factors that they are talking about on the consumer. The utility service provider itself has to look internally and look at some of its processes and how it's going to improve them, so that we are not seeing this 200 and something percent increase. Because that's significant, even though it's only on 11% component of the tariff, that's still going to have significant impact on consumers, and we don't want that, right? And then there's, of course, earlier I think you mentioned the whole idea of that 1 cedi per liter extra that we are paying on fuel, right? So that also was supposed to help with the generation cost, because part of ECG's explanations is that because there were no provisions before, ECG would have to use some of its revenue to buy fuel. Now we've been told that from what the government has told us, this 1 cedi is supposed to help with that. So how is all of that getting factored into that equation? Also think of like the recent appreciation of the cedi. Year to date, we are still above 20% appreciation. So how is all of that getting reflected in ECG's projections in terms of what it's asking for?
A very important point in there, and I appreciate you for this and how the coming days will look like. In fact, Ghana Water is also asking for 280% increase in their tariff. So we'll deal with that tomorrow, okay? Because we need to understand that viewers who are watching us are also concerned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Last and on Ghana Water, they asked for 320% in 2022. They only got 22%. So that should give people the context, right, in terms of what these utilities are asking for and what they actually get.
Perfect point. Alfred, thank you so much. Alfred appears a data scientist, and stay with us. We have a big conversation on these increases that these tariffs that the utility companies are asking for. But this evening, more than 10 people have been displaced and several properties destroyed after Fiat's Inferno ravaged homes at Latebiokoshi in the Greater Accra region. The fire reportedly began with a loud boom before escalating into a raging blaze. fueled by highly inflammable materials. A residential apartment which had been converted into a warehouse for leather and plastic products, including footwear and bags, became the epicenter of the disaster. For over 8 hours, personnel from the Ghana National Fire Service battled to contain the flames, which spread rapidly to other apartments in the same compound. Occupants managed to salvage only a few belongings, while several items, including a brand new Kia truck, fortunately consumed by the fire. The inferno was finally confined after 5 hours of intense firefighting efforts by the Ghana National Fire Service, although they're yet to determine the actual cause of the fire. Some residents suspect it may have been triggered by an unextinguished cigarette, allegedly smoked by a Chinese national in the area. What we're showing you is how troubling the situation is in the inferno that unfortunately has left more than 10 people displaced. I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. We're back again tomorrow for another conversation. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.